Excellent. And I see our participants are starting to enter the room. So we'll give it just a wee little more. We'll give everyone time to be let into the room, settle in, and we'll kick off. All right. Well, as everyone continues to join the webinar, I'll go ahead and start things officially. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, y'all. My name is Holly Morchat. I am General Manager here at ACE New Zealand, and I'm going to be your webinar host today. For those of you who don't know, today's webinar is a lightning webinar, which means we aim to deliver short and sharp content in 15 minutes or less. And then time for Q&A at the end is additional to that. So we really hope you enjoy this bite-sized content. And please let us know if you'd like a more in-depth session or other engagement type of content on this subject in the future. So a little bit about our webinar today. Everyone's muted to cut down on line noise. However, if you do have a question, type that into the Q&A section. You don't need to wait for it. Go ahead and type it in, and then I'll moderate questions to both Lucy and Ben at the end. And we are recording this webinar, and we'll be able to email it to you later today once we've published that. All right, so today's webinar is the top 7 LinkedIn tips for engineers. And that'll be presented today by Lucy King and Ben Paul of the BD Ladder. So that's my short and sharp bit of welcome and housekeeping done. And I'll hand over to both of them to introduce themselves further, and we'll kick straight into the webinar. Over to y'all.
Awesome, thank you. Hopefully most of you may have been on our previous webinars and may know who I am by now, but I'm the CEO of a company called BD Ladder. We consult with everyone in professional services, a range of engineers, and I've worked at an engineering firm before, so we're just here to help you and provide our tips. And Lucy?
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm the marketing executive here at the BD Ladder, and we're really excited to talk to you about LinkedIn today. So let's kick off.
Right, so what are we going to talk about today? Let me just run through. We'll give you in a lightning session, the top 7 tips to help you boost your profile on what you need to do. Looking forward at the contents that we'll be running through today. On the next slide, we're going to be running through how you can, here's your 7 tips, and you can all read, but basically go through in a very simple formula. So, and also when you come back, you can see here the order we're going to go into. So should you need to jump to material and find this as a reference point, we'll be there. We'll take questions at the end, but if there is something that pops up in the moment, I'm more than happy for Holly to jump in and pose that question to us as we go. It won't throw us off our mojo. At least I hope it won't anyway. We've had enough coffee this morning. We're at lunchtime, so we're good to go. So let's look at the first part. Treat it like your landing page. This is really, really important. If you think about LinkedIn and how many people are on it, pretty much all your clients or those you want to work with as a consultant engineer are there. And this is their chance to view you and for you to control what they see. This is how you launch your personal branding and what goes on there. We probably need to click the slide so you can read what we're talking about here. But that's what we're looking at here. You know, what do you want people to think of you, and how do you want to portray it? So when someone thinks about you and what you do and what services and how you help them, what are they seeing and what does it look like? We've talked about this before in other sessions when we talked about what's going on and trends in RFPs, but actually what we're seeing now is people are actually not just trusting the document you send them or your website. They're actually looking at something a bit deeper, your social media profiles, and particularly LinkedIn, to see if your profile on LinkedIn maps and translates exactly to what you put in front of them. So if you say you are an expert in the water sector, are you really an expert in the water sector? Do you know your stuff, and is that verified by what they're seeing on LinkedIn? And they're also looking at the references in that, because there's a lot of information and social proof they can see. So your clients are looking at it, procurement people are looking at it, they're looking to make sure the checks and balances there, but also to make sure that you are the expert they're looking for. So it's really important you treat that like your landing page. So moving on to the next point 2, Lucy.
So the second tip that we're talking about is how to optimize your profile, and we'll just look at the points there. The first place to start is customizing your URL. Now you can do this in order to help these people searching for you to find your profile more easily. So we suggest having your name or a combination of your name and your position. Next, you really want to make sure your headline and your about section communicates what you do and also the value that you bring to people. So think about key search terms you might want to be found for and try and incorporate those in there. Your headline is that little tag that follows you around LinkedIn, and the default setting will be your position and your organization. But try and get a little bit more creative and, like I said, incorporate those key search terms. For your about section, you want to communicate this in first person and again focus on your value and the outcomes that you can create. The first 3 sentences of this is very important because they'll either compel someone to read on or they just won't. So really focus in on those. Next, you want to make sure that your experience and education sections are completely filled out. So for your experience, under all your jobs, make sure that you highlight your key responsibilities and any achievements that you made in these roles. Your education section will also be very important, particularly because, you know, you're consultant engineers, these are your qualifications, so you really want to highlight your knowledge. Another way to highlight your knowledge and your specialties is to make sure that you have a relevant list of key skills on your LinkedIn profile. So you can add up to 50 on here, and it'll just help people searching for you, coming across your profile to see what your strengths are and to match you with the right opportunities. So that could be potential clients, that could be RFP tenderers, it could be recruiters. So it's best to keep those up to date. And lastly, you can add a recommendation section to your profile. And on top of these experiences and your qualifications, it just adds a little bit more credibility and social proof. So the client, the tenderer, they can understand that you are in fact the right person for the job. Cool. Tip number 3 is about making algorithm-friendly posts. This is important because at the end of the day, LinkedIn's algorithm is the main decision maker on how far your posts are going to travel. Are they going to end up in your audience's news feeds and their network's news feeds, or are they just going to get seen by 1 or 2 people? So there's a couple of ways you can make sure that you're making high quality content and that the LinkedIn algorithm is going to be happy. And the first one being making sure your posts are clear and easy to read. This means avoiding large chunks and paragraphs of text and keeping it to 1 or 2 sentences per line. That way your audience, when they see your post, can skim through, they'll understand what you're talking about, and they'll be more likely to engage. The second one is avoiding outbound links in the text of your post. That's because LinkedIn as a platform can be quite selfish and it wants to keep people on its platform as much as possible. So sometimes this is going to be unavoidable. You might want to direct people to your website or to an article that you've written or seen, but there's ways around it, such as letting the preview load and removing the link or leaving the link in the comments. If you've got questions about how to do this specifically, we can address those at the end. Next, you're going to want to use 3 to 6 relevant hashtags, but no more than 6. Hashtags are important because it indicates to the algorithm what your post is about and who it's going to be relevant for. So it really just increases your visibility. The next one, you could, after sharing your thoughts on a specific topic or an article, pose a question at the end of your post. Try and get your audience involved in commenting on the post because LinkedIn really values conversation. The more people are commenting, the more LinkedIn's going to think that more people are going to want to chime in, and it's likely to send your post further. And the last point for this is only tag people who you know are going to respond. One of the key characteristics of spammy content, which LinkedIn wants to avoid, is tagging a bunch of people who simply don't engage. So if you are going to make a post, tagging people, tagging your colleagues, people involved in the work, make sure you let them know first so they know when to expect your post and they can engage quickly.
Awesome. So I think point 4 is back to me, isn't it? And this is a really important one. It's post with your audience in mind. And I think this is something that's often overlooked in any kind of formal marketing channel that we go out there, is actually what are we saying and who are we saying it to? What's the key message we want our audience to understand? What do we want our clients or those we work with in the industry to understand and take away from this? What's the 1 or 2, 3 key messages that we want them to have? So post with your audience in mind, and then think about the best time is to post. Are people really going to read something in depth first thing on a Monday at 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Sunday night? They might, but it's unlikely. So let's think about the core business hours of when your followers will be online and when they are. You know, sometime between sort of 10 o'clock to about 2 o'clock is possibly when people are on LinkedIn, and the stats kind of back that up. But it will vary from industry to industry and person to person. If you're going after certain people, test it. See if you're going to post one time at 10:30 on a Tuesday, and then try something similar next week at 10:30 on a Wednesday or 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, and just see which seems to have the better uptake. It's not an exact science, but normally it is, as I say, between 10:30 to about 2:30 Tuesday to Thursday. But if you're working across the Tasman, you'll have to adjust those times. And again, if you're doing more overseas work, so it depends where your audience is based and what you want them to see and how it will work. So, but always post your audience in mind before you send something out. Think who wants to see it and when will they see it.
Cool. Tip number 5 is about being regular and consistent. And the main reason for this is because you want to stay top of mind to your audience. So when the time comes, they might be needing you and your services, they're going to think of you first. So the best way to do this on LinkedIn is to be regular with your posting and also be consistent with your posting. So make a commitment, pick some days, pick some times that you're going to be posting and stick to those. Like Ben said, Tuesday to Thursday is quite a good time. We've suggested 10 a.m, but again, just test and see what works with your audience. But if you keep that consistent, then your audience is going to know when to expect your post and they'll be more likely to engage quickly.
Awesome. So tip 6 is to get some help. And we had a whole webinar, lightning webinar on this, which you can see previous recordings on the ACE website, or you can go to our YouTube channel at the BD Ladder. But AI is a great friend. It doesn't need stacks of this like we do, like coffee, to get yourselves going. It can save time. It can give you inspiration for short posts and how to share news and articles. It won't read URL links. So if you want it to summarize an article or a news thing you're going to post, you have to post the article in and say, please give us a summary on this. It will give you some advice around hashtags as well. It's not linked to LinkedIn, so it won't necessarily give you the best ones or the 100% guaranteed ones, but they'll be in the ballpark and you can kind of adjust. It's a great writing tool. It can help you update your bios and headlines. It can help make your posts more algorithm friendly, which is easy for some people to say. So use it as a tool, use it as that kind of junior copywriter to give you the facts you need, but never post something that's purely written by ChatGPT or AI. Machines don't like other machines, which is a bit odd, but maybe they're like people who don't like other people. So it will penalize if it doesn't see what it thinks is human and authentic material. When you think about your clients, they want to hear from you, not from a machine. So you need to put your own voice to it. Yes, use it as a tool to speed up time and make it more efficient and help you summarize stuff and get good structure, but always add your own brand voice and your own thoughts into it as well, which gives us to the last point.
Yeah, so it's our last tip. It's about being social and commenting meaningfully. After all, LinkedIn is a social networking platform, so the more you engage and you put out there, the more you're likely to get back. So as I mentioned before, LinkedIn really values conversation on its platform. It wants people to come together, have conversation, comment meaningfully on each other's posts. And the first place to start is probably your company. So if your company shared something, why not offer congratulations to your colleagues? You could answer questions on other people's posts, or if you have posed a question yourself, make sure that you respond promptly to anyone that engages to keep the momentum of that conversation flowing. Or if you see a question where it's interesting, but you might not be the right person to answer, but you know who is, tag them, involve them in the conversation, because the more you do that, the more you engage, the more others are going to want to engage back.
Yeah, and that's really important. As we saw recently on our own company page this week, it's important to engage meaningfully and answer questions, provide insights, not use it as a material to try and force or push or sell your own services on. So that's the important thing. The more you're helpful to people, the more they'll just seek you out. And that's what it's about, providing content, being helpful, and then people will actually get in contact with you when they need you and require you. So you'll start to get those incoming inquiries. So just to summarize what we've been through today, if we go to the next slide, the there's all the 7 steps. So like we said, treat it like your landing page, your window to the world. It's a really powerful tool. Everyone is on LinkedIn these days, and most people check it at least 2 or 3 times a week. Many people much more than that. So therefore, it's important to make sure your personal brand is up to date and you've optimized your profile. Follow those best practice tips in what you're posting in, and always post with your audience in mind. Think about who you're trying to reach and how you're going to reach it. And once you know that, just be regular and consistent. It's one of the keys to any marketing initiative. The more consistent you are, the more success you will have. And the great news is you can get help from AI. In fact, if you're not sure how many times you should post on LinkedIn as a consultant engineer, you can actually ask ChatGPT and it'll give you an opinion. Whether it's right or not, who's to say, but it will certainly help. And then be social and comment meaningfully. It's a networking platform, so think of it as you would as any kind of networking environment. Go out there, be helpful. So that's the end of that. That's the 7 tips. Hopefully you got some questions, and there's a whole raft of articles, mostly written by Lucy, thankfully, which will give you some help and advice on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. So now's the time, team, that if you've got any questions, feel free to type those into the chat or the Q&A area. I'll probably pause for a couple minutes and see if we get anything go through. And I might sneak in a personal question. I am terrible at LinkedIn, and I admire my colleagues who exactly hit your points. They comment regularly. They engage in, in industry specific questions that highlight their expertise. And I am just too tired most of the time. I've got 2 young kids. So if you had to tell someone, where's the #1 place to start for someone who's super tired and just is daunted by like, oh, I think getting like my LinkedIn game up and running is just too much for me right now. Where should I start? Where's the cheat sheet to start?
Well, there's no exact cheat sheet, but a really good tool that LinkedIn offers is the ability to schedule. So Holly, if you had 30 minutes available at the start of the week or every fortnight, just to think about a couple of posts you can make and schedule them ahead, it'll automatically post them out for you. And then you'll just have to check once or twice. And if anyone comments, just make sure you hit back with that. But at least that sets you up so you don't have to be constantly thinking about what you're going to do next on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And I'd say get your hashtags on what you're following up to date, and the right feed comes through in there. And then just maybe once or twice a week when you're sat at your desk, flick LinkedIn on when you're having a sandwich or a coffee and a snack. And that kind of 10 to 15 minute discipline, you'll find stuff to comment on, congratulate people on their post, and that just gets a regularity as well. And it's
brilliant.
Also quite good for busy consultant engineers who charge by the hour as well, because it means you've actually got 2 slots when you're on for 10 to 15 minutes. And look, that scheduling tip that Lucy's give is one that she made me do, and has seen my post engagements go up massively, because every 2 to 3 weeks I sit there for half an hour and I schedule a load of content that just goes out of my personal profile.
That's brilliant. And for our viewers who are wondering, in the email that I'll send with the recording to this webinar, I'll also link you to the recording of the ChatGPT webinar we did with the team at the BD Ladder. So we've got a couple of questions come in. Can you please explain how to get someone to write a recommendation for you?
Sure, absolutely. So through your connections, you can go into your recommendations section and request someone directly to write this for you. Hopefully they'll respond. That would be great. And then you have the ability to either accept the recommendation or request an edit. So I hope that answers your question.
That's a great one, and one I was thinking of as well. So thank you for asking that question. All right, Gabby wants to know, is there such a thing as a list of relevant hashtags?
There used to be. So when you put a post up, you put a hashtag, it used to come up with suggestions, a little bit like Twitter or Facebook, I believe, but definitely Twitter, or X as I should now call it. But that feature seems to have disappeared recently. So a good thing is to look at pages or what other people are posting and see what their hashtags are and copy those relentlessly. So we kind of know that as a period of time, but ChatGPT is pretty reliable in what it gives you in terms of what would you recommend your hashtags for this be? But yes, that feature has dropped off a little bit.
One thing that I would also recommend is try and join some groups of your industry, and then just observe what other people in those groups are doing, and that will give you a guide to what the most popular hashtags are for potentially what you're posting to.
Excellent. I love it. We've got quite a few questions. And again, audience, feel free to type yours in. So this question is more on publishing articles and posts. So I'll start with the second one actually first. Which one holds more valuable? Is it writing an article or a post? And then there's a follow-up question to that.
In anything, it depends on the content. So if you're taking it off LinkedIn, you're doing a thought leadership piece, or you're writing externally, you're publishing a book or magazine, that absolutely has the most credibility, particularly if it's published externally. That's just how people are wired. If someone else has published it externally, it's been published by a publishing house, it must be credible. A really good article put on LinkedIn will travel really well and boost your personal brand. There are different types of posts on LinkedIn. So when you're doing the simple stuff, which we all do, where you share an article and say, this looks really interesting, this is what I think, what do you think? That has an impact, right? It keeps your personal brand ticking, but probably not anywhere near as an article. However, a long form post, when you write 300 words or whatever it allows you to do, and you write sort of that piece of thing, and it's really short, but there's no links out, they tend to travel really, really well. And they're short. And it's almost like you could write an article and then you could take the 3 points and write them as a long form post and see which one performs better. And you might be surprised to find a long form post actually does better than the article. But by all means, in the comments, say if you want to read more, here's a link to the full article I wrote on LinkedIn. You can find it here, but put it in the comments separate to the long post. So yeah, I think, but when someone engages with an article, they're more likely to come and reach with you because there's more depth to what you said. So therefore, they're more likely to interact with you and remember it, as opposed to a post which will just tick along in the background but may not be memorable.
Yeah. Oh, well put. And the follow on, just that wider. Any particular tips for publishing articles?
Do it as regularly and as often as possible. Don't be afraid to use tools like ChatGPT to put in and say, can you optimize this for what you call SEO key term or key phrase? So for example, if you want to be found for solving urban congestion New Zealand, get it to try and find a thing and know what that term is. So we write it to try and put that term more into your article. Then you'll have to edit it again because you might find it's put it in too many times for your taste, but that will help. And look, if you've got a good article, yes, publish it on LinkedIn, but don't be afraid to reach out to publications. We're talking to Ace today, and there's obviously lots of content that you would want to share with your members if it's useful. There's other publications out there as well, which are more targeted to kind of industry. So could be local government news, could be anyone like that. So actually think about where's the best platform for the content you spent a lot of time creating and send it out through there.
Now, LinkedIn is a great place to build your personal brand, but don't shy away from other sources as well, because it does all end up feeding into each other.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, I haven't had any new questions come in, and I think this is a really great place to wrap up. Thanks again. You delivered your 15 minutes of content spot on, and then we opened for questions. So just want to wrap up today just by saying thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you, of course, Lucy and Ben, for adding your expertise in this short and sharp format. So yeah, that's kind of it. It's just a big thanks, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day, and look forward to the recording publication email that I'll send later today. It'll include some other tips and webinars we've done with the team at the BD Ladder. All right. Cheers, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.